The Netherese, the peak of humanity in the Forgotten Realms. This was the greatest civilization of mankind that existed to date. Floating cities of magic, 12th and 13th freaking level spells, Nether Scrolls, Archwizards, gods, demigods, the weave. Just about everything is because of the empires of Netheril. During an ancient time when humanity first hit its peak, we had the floating cities of Netheril. For thousands of years, these people lived in these flying enclaves miles above the planet's surface. Now, this time, guys, we're going to rewind time, and we're going to travel really far back. We're going to visit Delimbier Vale. This is the homeland of a powerful elven kingdom called Eolam. Now, Eolani elves, as they're called, live here in these big hollowed out trees that connected with lavish rope bridges and platforms. The classic fantasy setting for elves, as it were. See, these guys believed to live with their surroundings. So when it came to finding ruins or leftover secrets from these guys, it's almost impossible to do. Now, remember, this is before the Netherese empires were founded. Okay, so humans at this time were simple farmers, fishers, and hunters, and they really didn't do anything big before any of all this. It was mostly threats from the orcs that the elves of Eolam had a problem. Now, before these guys learned everything from the elves, there were skirmishes and battles with the elves of Eolam and the orc tribes, and those same orcs were beginning to become a serious problem. So it's currently negative 3830 DR, which is the Dale Reckoning chart. And the Eolani elves decided, hey, these humans are pretty good with magic. Maybe they can help us with the orcs. And so they began teaching their magics to the humans of Elder Netheril. See guys, human beings are really, really apt at magic and using it in D&D. They're naturally overpowered when it comes to using it. A lot of powerful Archwizards in D&D are human beings as well. Anyways, within the next 1,000 years, the empires of Netheril would strive from here. Now guys, there's tons and tons of stories that pertain to these ancient empires, but we're going to save them all for a future video. For now, we're going to focus on the biggest events in the Netherese empires and their untimely fall. Now, before we begin on taking on the big event that happens after Carus and the flying cities themselves, we gotta start it by talking about someone I've noticed many other YouTube videos lacking coverage on. This is a guy named Finder. Now, Finder here, unironically, found the Nether Scrolls in Sun Elf ruins he was sent to explore. And if you watched my complete history of D&D series, you'd understand that the Nether Scrolls were the apex of magic during this time, and the secrets that the Saruk hid inside of these Nether Scrolls here would end up shaping the future of the entire planet. Hey guys, weird note here, but remember my video on the Saruk, those ancient, super ancient reptilian beings that used to live on the old nether days of Abertoril? Well, one of those guys became a freaking lich. And this guy is called Terrasir, or Arthendal, and he's one of the few of his species that's actually survived the downfall of the Saruk races. Anyways, it's because of this guy that Finder was sent to find the Nether Scroll in the first place. You can find more about this info in my latest video on the Saruk races, which I posted about 1.5 years ago. So if you wanted to scroll down in my channel, you can take a look down below. Anyways, so with the discovery of the magics within the Nether Scrolls, the Netherese empires would begin to rise to power and begin the golden age of Ancient Netheril, where over the next 3,000 years, these guys would prosper. So we're going to start out by looking at this guy named Eolam and negative 3315 DR. Eolam is born on this day, and he becomes one of the most important people to exist in Dungeons and Dragons after this. And this guy is extremely smart. See, Eolam here is called the Father of Netheril, and he's one of the longest living archmages of all time. and he actually led a battle called the Excursion into an orc concentration camp at the time, back in negative 3145 DR, nearly wiping them out completely. By doing that action, he actually rose to an important position within the early days of Ancient Netheril. Now, Eolam invented something called the Mythalars in negative 3014 DR, which were these powerful magical relics in the shape of massive crystal balls that would magically grab power from the weave like a generator. And for those of you who are new to the channel and D&D in general, the weave is where all magic comes from in the Forgotten Realms. See, these things didn't just grab magic like you'd see with a level 2 spell or incantation. This thing didn't just produce magic, it produced raw magic in abundance. So much so that the flying cities of Netheril were able to fly in the first place because of them. Oh, I have one more thing to tell you. Here's a cool little drawback. Do not touch a Mythalar, period. If you run across one in your campaign, do not touch a Mythalar. This is always going to be a fatal and final decision. This thing will disintegrate anything that touches it. Even an undead touching this thing would be instantly destroyed. However, if you want to know how to destroy one, just use a little bit of a disintegrating spell. I'm also going to give you the recipe on how to create one here in a second, but not even I know the exact recipe. So, anyway. As for the Mythalars, creating one would require you to find something called a mythal seed, which alters the fabric of the dimension itself. Personally, I theorize that it creates a ley line convergence in the universes of the Weave and the Forgotten Realms, like a dimensional door, which after it sprouts, the component that the seed uses to access the Weave probably stays the same, allowing unlimited magic and, raw magic to slip through. And that component is probably what's required to create the Mythalar, which is probably formed into the crystal sphere shape after the seed sprouts. Not much really is known about the Mythal Seed outside of it being the starting point to creating the Mythalar, so just keep that in mind. Now guys, Eolam didn't just create the Mythalar. It was 60 years after his first Mythalar creation, negative 2954 DR, that he decided to perform one of the most fantastic spells of all time. It's called Proctive's Move Mountain. A freaking level 10 spell, dude. This guy decided to access this powerful raw magic and split a mountain in half. He then flipped it upside down, made it fly, and shot it into the air. And on top of it, he created this new floating platform which he created the first flying city on, Zenlanal. Now, Zenlanal in Ancient Netheril was more than just a flying city. It was an inspiration for the other mages of Netheril to do the same. With the citizens on the ground seeing this, they eventually decided to move up there, thinking the world below them really wasn't up to par. This action became ingrained into the Netherese society, and doing so ended up splitting Netheril into two halves. The first one being High Netheril, where the mages are the hierarchy, and Low Netheril, where those who can't really use magic reside. And considering how ancient this era is, it is filled with barbarian tribes and villages. Guys, Ancient Netheril didn't just have advanced magics. They had modern day technology due to the magic that they were using. These guys had bathrooms, sinks, refrigerators, air conditioning even. Magic in this era during the empires of Netheril was more than just a commodity, it was a way of life. Mythalars are insane. The magical empires of Netheril would end up lasting over 3,000 years too, by the way. This is longer than many of the countries here in the real world, so make sure to keep that in mind. Now, unfortunately guys, this is where it's gonna kinda get bonkers. Carus. Oh yeah, we're at that point now, fellas. Baldur's Gate 3 fans will notice this name here. See, Carus here had big ambitions. even bigger than mine on this platform. This guy thought he deserved to be a god, and he really got close during his lifetime. See, in the Netherese Empire, the top dogs of society are Archwizards. Yes, dudes, he's the youngest one ever to be an Archwizard, only in his 20s. This means he had to cast Proctiv's Move Mountain and create a freaking flying city on his own that he would run. So, in order to explain what happens next with the Netherese Empires, we have to talk about these guys called the Phym. And these guys are some weird, aberrational creatures that normally live underground, with mouths for faces and arms. However, once upon a time during the Days of Thunder, these things actually lived above ground. What made these aberrations so terrifying for the Netherese Empire was their ability to eat magic. Yeah, these things ate magic. And they were able to cast it. And because of that, once upon a time, they brought 2 of the flying cities crashing down. Lauda and Tith-Tilandrothiel being the first 2 of them to fall. The Phym destroyed them in the year of breaking storms, which probably means that it was a weather spell that the Phym casted to cause the cities to fall. Regardless of how it happened, the other flying cities then followed suit and installed wards to prevent it from happening again. We're going to look at -461 DR. This is when the Phayrims decided to create a spell that would drain the life energy from the Netherese Empire's lands, causing the Desert of Anarok to appear. See, with the citizenry of Ancient Netheril using magic so much, they never noticed how their way of life was slowly destroying the underground homes of the Phayrim, and so the Phayrim began to fight back. It's now -339 DR, and 122 years has passed since the conflict with the Phayrim began. This rising conflict caused the big archwizard Eolam to abandon his enclave for his own place in the Underdark, while looking for a way to deal with the Phayrim. Eolam would then stay there permanently, avoiding the death of the Netheril empires, and even becoming something more than just human. But we'll get back to that in a moment. See, with Eolam's disappearance, this caused Carus to kind of lose his mind. See, Eolam wasn't just a great archwizard, he was the great archwizard of Netheril, and Carus, while being much stronger than Eolam, still looked up to him in terms of like the rest of the Netherese society. With Eolam disappearing, this kind of put Carus into a bad position with the conflict, and he was kind of like the center of attention at that point. He became basically the big cheese of the Netheril empires. Now, Carus created something first here. He created this interesting artifact called the Crown of Carus, and what this does is allows the wearer to wield magic and maintain their connection to the weave. With all of this turmoil, strife, and stuff getting onto Carus, he decided to cast one of the most powerful spells in Dungeons & Dragons, and immediately end the war. Yes, I mean the most powerful spell in D&D. Obviously outside of Kelemvor's Avatar and Universal Collapse, which were 13th level spells. He created the spell known as Carsus's Avatar, and what this would do was forcefully replace him as a god in the place of another god. And the god this spell targeted was the goddess of magic herself, Mistral. Now, while I won't go over massive details as to the ingredients for this particular spell, just understand that it kind of breaks the universe. See, a 10th level spell could shatter a crystal sphere and allow one to penetrate it. This was 12th. A 12th level. What Carus did here would be known as Carsus's folly. And folly he did. See, with his spell enacted, it caused the worst possible outcome for the entire Empire of Netheril. This magic worked like a double negative. See, Carus is a human being, so his ability to do what Mistral does is not possible as a human, and this caused magic throughout the entire planet to go berserk, and because he couldn't regulate the flow of the weave properly to all things magical in the world, like the goddess Mistral does, this damaged the weave as well. And Carus actually succeeded here for a moment. Just for a moment. He achieved apotheosis and began using his new divinity in that moment to create a new weave separate from Mistral's, and this would be called the Carusite weave. This new weave was imperfect and would consume the essence of the regular weave, which is everywhere. Mistral had no choice but to use her essence and sacrifice herself to seal the weave, blocking it off from the entire world, causing all magic to instantly shut off, like a power in your house going out during a thunderstorm. At that moment, all hell broke loose upon Toril. As the magic shut off from the world, Carus was forced back into his mortal form, his godly essence showing from his eyes as his body began to turn to stone. With the Mythalars immediately deactivated, the cities of Ancient Netheril immediately plummeted into the land, causing an absolute apocalypse of fire, destruction, brimstone, and death. And with the cities crashing down, everything was gone in that moment. Carus watched his empire fall into fire and hell before the disconnection from the weave turned him into stone, killing him and sending him plummeting into the world. The Netheril empires and the goddess of magic and Carus all died on that day. Mistral, however, reincarnated within moments after doing this and became Mystra, the goddess of magic. As Mystra, she reforged the weave itself and established new rules within the universe for using magic. Because of this newly reforged weave, no spells above the 10th level would function anymore. This was all done within an extremely short period of time, by the way, guys, as right after she performed this crazy feat, she was then able to save 3 falling Netherese cities simultaneously. Anaria, Azram, and Hlondath were the only ones that were so high off of the continent that their fall was lengthy enough for Mystra to actually use her powers and land them in time. Carus's body of stone is still found to this day, by the way, dudes, where his remains lie in the Direwood. However, deep within the North Dark, Eolam the Archwizard survived, and later on, in -371 DR, he would turn into a lich and began teaching magic to illithid students. Yeah, that includes mind flayers, guys, and humans too. Remember, this is the Underdark, so it's filled with crazy stuff and adventure. Anyways, Eolam the Lich would be apparently killed off by a cabal of mind flayer liches known as Illitholiches, but his actual intentions at that time were to conduct an experiment to create an undead elder brain. See, he had a student at the time named Tabra, who was already super loyal as a human, and she saw what was going on, thinking Eolam was being attacked in the middle of a magic battle with the illithid students, and she decided to kill them. And she cast a powerful spell called Eolam's Longevity on herself, which is this pretty messed up spell that would increase a person's lifespan by an entire year at the cost of another individual's life. So Eolam still succeeded though, and he ended up becoming the new undead Elder Brain, which was his entire intention in the first place, and he renamed himself as the Oracle of Eliantal. And to this very day, the Oracle of Eliantal is still around, spreading Netherese secrets and knowledge of the bygone days. I'll cover this later on in a future video. From here, we're going to be returning to the timeline of my complete history series. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you find any lore information incorrect, please call me out on it. I'll do the best I can to keep the information consistent and precise, and I'm prone to error like any other mortal. Anywho, guys, this is Grimdock the Lore Master, signing out.